Good morning.
Hi, everybody.
This is Reed.
This is Shannon.
And we are back for a new week. Today we're going to talk about trying to have a mental sense of normalcy.
Yes.
Among the pandemic, which could also be for you.
This...
Or your children.
Technically, we got this from a teen-focused thought process, but as we go through it, you'll realize at the right level, this could apply to kids or adults.
This is pretty adaptable, yeah.
We all need to feel like life's a little normal these days.
Yeah, right. And I think as time has gone on, like for me, I've said this multiple times where I feel like even working from home, time went by really slow for me. Like really, really slow. But as time has gone on and a sense of normalcy has occurred, time has again sped up, which I don't know if it is good or bad.
Yeah, I still don't feel like it's moving as fast as it was pre-COVID.
Yeah, that's true.
Things are still closed down a little bit.
Yeah, and I do spend a lot more time at home, even when we work in the office. So
I mean, you still have to plan ahead like 3 weeks if you're going to the zoo or not.
Yes.
Which that's a struggle for me, planning that far into the future. Even though everything's shut down, I'm still like, I don't know about 3 weeks in the future.
And everyone else is still like day to day.
Yeah.
So, and what is open one day is not / vice versa. What is closed right now is not closed tomorrow. But as we get closer to the opening of schools,
maybe, possibly,
maybe in some way, as they keep pushing back, and as time goes on, we all get a sense of how creepily distant each school district is from each other. Like, they are not anywhere close. It is a nightmarish difference between school districts.
I was watching a video this morning of a teacher. I think she's in California. I'm not positive about that, but it's not an Ohio teacher. But she was talking about how everybody's doing distance learning. Nobody's going to school this year. However, the schools are opening daycares for essential workers' kids because they need people to watch their kids. And the daycares are going to be in the school buildings.
Oh, nice.
Where the kids will have to do distance learning during the day. So, irony.
Yes. Wow, that's interesting.
So, they're putting all the kids of the essential workers who are most likely to get COVID into a school building together.
Who is considered to be essential? I like to think that I'm essential, but then I realize that I'm not.
My husband's essential, but he oversees the manufacturing of soap, so that's a thing.
That's important, though. As someone who works with middle schoolers, I would say that is very, very important to the lifeblood of community.
Middle schoolers, 2-year-olds, it works in both areas.
It does. And my 2-year-old is almost 3 in a couple months.
Woo.
And yes, we just got into the phase of I don't want to take a bath.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah.
Defiant.
So now we try to find new things to get her to take a bath.
No, I'm entering into the official 2-year-old stage and it's the I don't want to get out of the bath is where we're at.
Right. Well, here's fun. There's a twofold here. I don't know if this is good or bad, and we'll let the audience decide, I guess. But now when we take baths, the most exciting thing that my daughter can do is wash my feet. So I don't know, like...
Is there a Bible story lesson along with that?
Well, you know what? I probably should drop that in there, like a little Bible knowledge to get her theologically trained now.
Right.
But no, so far it's been like, Daddy, put your feet up on the bathtub. I want to wash them. And now that is our like most exciting
bonding
bath direction. That's how we get her to take baths.
Okay.
Now, because she loves it.
I don't even know what to do with that.
Yeah, I don't. Honestly, I still don't know if it's good or bad. I don't know whether I feel guilty or if I just like thank you.
Roll with it.
Yeah, thank you for serving me in this manner.
I mean, my middle child likes to rub my back. I mean, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, who's complaining?
It's not like
really?
Swedish massage, but
can you scratch
it's
my head? And she does. Yeah, this is nice. This is nice. We're waiting for the day where she doesn't want anything to do with us.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
in this time, it's great. It's great.
It's good moments. So
Yeah, so I think number one of returning in your mind mental capacity.
Yes.
I think we all agree that whatever it looks like, it doesn't even matter what your belief is,
Right.
really. Like this transcends that. Like this is way bigger than that.
Right.
You're still trying to find some sort of mental normalcy in what is happening in this new normal. And depending on who you listen to, this is our normal still for a little while.
Right.
Like at least we've made it, at the least best case scenario, we've made it halfway to what they think might be heading back in a normal direction.
Right. And schools are at least through the semester going to be different.
Yeah, I mean, you
Some
may
people
have,
are saying a whole school year, but I feel like that's a little premature to be saying the whole school year.
If we have to deal with that high school football, it's going to be a mess.
Ooh, West Side does not handle that well.
Yeah, the whole country of Cincinnati doesn't.
Really, honestly, what area of the United States would be okay with no football?
Well, okay, but the rest of the U.S. doesn't matter. We're talking about the state of Cincinnati right now.
True.
And the state of Cincinnati says football is king. So if we have to do that. But I legitimately think that out of this, we will have the most students ever in the history of mankind excited to go back to school.
Oh, yeah. I was talking with, like, middle schoolers that I'm like, are you excited to go back to school? They're like, I'm excited to see my friends.
Yeah, I think they'll put up with school. I think they would do well in school only because they get to be there.
Yeah.
Which is, it's funny. And
I found the way to make kids excited about school is to put them in virtual learning first. They hate that more, so they're willing to do the in-person stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, when you see the alternative, you know what I mean? When things are stripped away.
Yep.
Which is like our point one: define, acknowledge, and validate the losses and disappointments, big and small.
Right.
Which leads right into school.
Right.
Too.
And I mean, I think that's for all of us. I feel like I've had a lot of conversations the past week about people. Like, I don't even think people have stopped and thought about the loss they've experienced and acknowledge that it is a loss. And so there's like these feelings they have, and they can't really put tangible words around why they're feeling that way. They just know they feel alone, or they feel lost, or they feel like all these different things. And they haven't really put into terms and thought about the fact the reason they're feeling that way isn't because they aren't getting something. It's just from all the shift and loss that they've experienced all at once. So they might say all of it's because I don't have this one thing, but the reality is we don't have all the things. Everything changed. We were forced into this. It wasn't like as a community we're like, yeah, we think this is going to be an awesome way to live our lives moving forward. It was you don't have a choice now. And I was telling you earlier, like going through it's a little bit of a grief cycle that we need to walk ourselves through, walk our kids through, and help them all acknowledge just, we've lost things we've loved. Maybe even acknowledging some of the good things we've lost and that we have an opportunity for better. I think we've talked about that in the early podcasts when all of this was starting, just that, now we have time for more family time. Like, that is a good thing. Hopefully. Maybe you don't feel that way, but I mean, having more quality time together as a family should be good and acknowledged as that. But acknowledging your losses, some of that cycle that goes through, you have your loss and then you have your doubt on, like, is this going to be a good thing? Are we ever going to go back? Is normal ever going to feel normal again? Like, all of this goes through, and you can have a lot of resentment through all of that. And then you start getting into this discomfort phase, which I feel like is where a lot of us are at in this moment. Because we've gone through, gosh, is it 6 months now?
Is that how long this has been?
6 years.
I feel like I have gray hair now.
Decades.
It might be decades.
Something.
Decades sounds right.
It's been a while. But I think we're all getting to this discomfort phase of just like, it's all gray. Like, we don't know how long it's going to be. We all speculate and we push for what we think it is. And then there are the people that are more susceptible, that they're wanting it to be longer because it's a bigger deal to them and all that. But we're just in this unpredictable thing, and it can lead to it can lead to a lot of anxiety and just being unproductive. Like you don't want to do anything because you just don't know what's going to be next. And so that's why the things that we're talking about, acknowledging those 3 stages that you work through and maybe swing back and forth between, just acknowledging those so that you can start moving forward. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next 4 kind of categories, so that you can get into more of a rhythm and not just feel like you're floundering in life. Yeah,
right. I think that to your point as well, like something that I would like to amplify a little bit is just the thought that in some ways it's good. Like it's caused us to slow down and spend more time with our family, and there's a lot of things that we had to cut out. And in some ways it's bad for others where your sluggishness is just more sluggishness. Like, some days, like I feel like I didn't do anything and I'm still exhausted. Like I have no idea what's happening.
Why is it so hard to climb the stairs?
I almost feel like sometimes it's easier to run around and be super busy and fill your schedule, which is what I think that we did. But yeah, just even pinpointing it, there's so much power in words. I mean, we've talked about that a million times. And in this culture, in this student culture of the lonely, anxiety-filled, depression-filled, those are like the main things that define, I guess their negative side of their personas.
Right.
With that being, the losses come terribly. Like the losses are just worse. Everything is amplified because of their anxiety. And will I even have this friend group? Like everything was built on time that we spent. And now I get no time with them. And
I would have that kind of anxiety the 3 months in between school years.
Oh yeah,
a lot of times because I didn't see my friends a lot, especially in the college years and stuff. If you don't get to, this is before like video chat and you only got free texting at nighttime, and then you have to coordinate.
I don't know what that's like at all. You only get so many characters
away
per month.
Messages, all that kind of good stuff.
That's horrible.
But you'd get some of that anxiety because you're not getting the FaceTime and the like real interactions, because you can be so different in texting and online world. And all
which
that
is
stuff.
why it's so important to just name it. Like just like give your kids, even give you or your spouse or whatever, give yourself space to say, like, I feel like I've lost this. Like I've lost this sense of community.
Yep.
I've lost, some kids I know loved school. Yeah. Like they actually love attending. Kids. They love learning. They love their teachers. I mean, like, I don't think we talked about that loss enough, maybe.
Right.
Of like how impactful teachers have been on some students' lives, and now they don't get to see them in person every day.
They didn't get to say goodbye at the end of last year.
Right. So even just getting to name those, or like giving them the platform to name those, is huge, which is kind of lends into our second point of help your kids, even yourself, identify choices, routines, and rituals. And like you said, so much of all of this was like stripped away.
Yeah.
Like super fast. So it's almost like you don't even have a say over your life anymore. I know a lot of our teenagers feel that way. Like you don't even get a say over what you do, how you can do it, where you can go without blank, blank, blank. So many rules, which they love those. And so even now, just saying like, hey, here's all the here's all the positives.
Right.
Here's all the good things that you still have choices over, or the rituals and the routines that we can create here and this way, and it may look completely different, but we're learning to live in a new world.
Right. And I think it's really important. I know we're really intentional about it with our kids just because of our family dynamic of foster care and everything, but trying to give your kids as many choices as possible, even if it's really insignificant. Like last night, we decided we needed to flip some of our routine around so we could get to bed a little bit earlier, because we're still on the post-vacation.
I love that.
Time lag. So
I don't need a nap, and I don't need to go to bed till 10.
Yeah. And then everybody's laying on the floor in the morning. I'm so tired.
Yeah.
So we flipped some things around, and we did our bath time before dinner. And I gave him a choice. I said, do you want to go first? I gave our oldest the choice. Do you want to go first or second? And so he chose first. And then the middle, I was going to do our youngest two together. And our middle one's like, no, I don't want to. I was like, that's fine. That means I can't help you because I'll have the baby. And so it was like, you'll have to wash your hair by yourself and do all this stuff. And he did great. Like, he loved that he got to have the choice that he wanted, which was he didn't want to go first. And he followed all the conditions that I put. You won't get to watch the show you want to watch because you're going to watch the same thing I already told your brother he could watch during his time. And you won't get to you won't get help from me, which usually that's a big thing for him. And I said, and when I say it's time, you got to leave no matter where the show is.
Yeah.
And I said 2-minute warning. And he's like, I'm just going to come up now. And like he willingly, like he did the whole, like it was beautiful. Like it was the most beautiful bath time moment with him that we have ever had in our entire life. I was like,
this is my moment.
I might do this for the rest of my life. It probably won't be as beautiful the next time we do it. But,
no, probably not. Never
But
is.
we gave them choices, and they were small choices, and they didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
But it gave them ownership and control in the chaos. And I think giving your kids, no matter how insignificant it is, control in the midst of what feels like chaos for them, finding ways to give yourself control in the midst of chaos just through the little choices we make, can make such a big difference in our emotional responses to things.
Yeah, and I mean that same. That goes based on age, based on everything plays into that as well, of like what makes them feel like they're in control, right, or what they have a say over or whatever. I'm gonna switch these two. I think these two middle ones.
Okay.
Promote an exploratory mindset. I think that it's so important here now to just explore the new normal. Like even I feel like as a Enneagram 7, I feel as if when people restrict me, then I have to behave restricted in a restricted manner.
Yeah.
And so that I feel like that even has its own mental weight for me. So when people are like, no, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, in my mind, I'm just like, okay. And I just like shut down. Like,
see, I'm a 4. We're the opposite. We're like, you can't tell me what to do. I'm going to be my own person.
Yeah, technically, sevens kind of do that as well. But
they're like, fine, but I'll wear a party hat while I do it.
Yeah.
Here's some confetti.
Yeah, I think we're. Right. I think we're a little bit more agreeable than 4s, probably. But then we find good ways to in our own head of what we believe is.
You make everything into a game.
Yeah, of whatever the game is. So, but I think it's so important to encourage that exploratory mindset, like promote it, like give them chances to go out of themselves and figure out what it is to be a student or a kid in a new pandemic world. Like, how do you play games? How do you like? Well, I grew up with like neighborhood kids where we go outside and play baseball or football together, and there was like that kind of neighborhood, and like some stuff like that's not really options anymore. Like if you take it seriously and you take the distancing and all that kind of stuff, it's just difficult to do things like that.
Right.
Block party. It's difficult to live in that realm. So. I think that some of the greatest creation comes with restrictions.
Truth.
And I think that students are really capable of creating new normals and creative solutions to feeling lonely and discouraged and that anxiety-filled world. But I think that they have to be promoted in order to think outside of okay, now I am restricted to my room and I can't do much. And
I think it's encouraging. It's encouraging your kids to, it goes back to verbalizing the issue. So once you acknowledge, hey, this is a problem, like we've kind of just let it be this elephant in the room that nobody's going to talk about because we're hoping it eventually leaves.
That's been me this whole time.
Right.
Yeah,
I think that's been a lot of us.
I hope I wake up and it goes away.
If we just don't talk about it, it'll eventually starve to death or leave, one of the two. But I think acknowledging that and then saying, okay, we don't like this thing. How do we fix it? And giving them permission and acknowledging that I'm right in the fixing process with you too, because guess what? I didn't grow up in the middle of a pandemic. Like,
Yeah.
none of us know what we're doing. We're all making it up. And I think that's a hard part of parenting is a lot of times we can be like, well, I went through the dating phase. I went through the breakup phase. I went through the awkward phase. I went through all these phases. And this is how I dealt with it. And this is how so-and-so dealt with
Right.
it. And here's recommendations and ideas. And da-da. And so we feel like we have at least some kind of encyclopedia to work off of for so many of life's issues. But
Of all the things that you learn from experience.
right, but this is not one of those things. We are
Yeah.
as clueless as our kids, and that's frustrating to us. That's probably something else we need to name as parents, that we can't work off any kind of experience with this. And so making that a family thing, that, you know, we're going to figure out how to do some of this together, and we have freedom to try stuff,
Yeah.
and freedom to fail, and freedom to throw things against the wall, and we're going to figure out what works for our family through all of this is a big piece in that whole puzzle.
Yeah, which I think plays into our next point, which is just the encourage your kids to develop a sense of competence.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this is so incredibly important. We were just talking about this before, where they were talking about Gen Z gets 64% of their information on political news or anything else, any sort of news website on YouTube, TikTok, or Instagram.
I know, and I said that's where I get all my news from too.
Right, right. But we did say the difference is that you do
I research afterwards.
you have an exploratory mindset.
Yes.
And afterwards you go and you look for if this is valid or not.
I look for contradictory mindsets and different things. I try to balance it all.
Right.
Do the research.
And I mean, if
cetera,
we're being
et cetera.
honest, it's probably a 50-50 shot on whether what you see is somewhat embellished or
Right.
very skewed, especially if we're talking about like TikTok or Instagram. I mean, really, they're social media users, and they look at influencers, and their influencers are the same ages that they are.
Yeah.
They don't know anything. They know how to get a lot of like follows and likes and stuff on TikTok, but like they
They know where to shop.
they don't know much about like it's not like they're coming from a professional opinion of,
Right.
of what has happened.
Journalism integrity.
Yeah, they probably
Not many
have,
people are coming from that angle though these days. So
yeah, well, they probably have not as well done very much research on what they're saying.
Correct.
They very much speak out of feeling, whatever pops in their head, emotion.
whatever they saw on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube,
Right.
It's a nice little circle whirlwind.
Yeah, right. And now I think it's such a crucial time to just be like, I'm going to teach you how to be a competent human.
Right. Where
Like,
did you hear that? How do you
Yeah.
know that's true? Like, you can't just take everything for face value because so-and-so said so.
Yeah, my daughter's in trouble. I have a sociology minor, so I'm just gonna be like, do you have any statistics to back that up? Because if you don't, like, don't say it to me. You know, like,
Right.
But I think it is super important. It's one thing that we always want. Like, we want our kids to be incredibly competent, but it's also just like a self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Like, competency is so much of that line of thinking
Right.
of like, I want you to speak truth.
Right.
And like, even if we're talking about biblically, like, we're challenged to speak truth. And so is what you're saying truth?
Right.
Is what you're saying helpful or is it harmful? And just that kind of thing. Like,
Right.
I think.
Well, and helping them understand. Obviously, there are some issues that the Bible doesn't speak of, so we can have differing opinions of it.
Sure.
And there's that gray zone of the truth of God and His love and how you interpret that in life. But in this competency area, you want to make sure you're giving your kids the ability and that you're pushing on what they believe to be true through the lens of God, to be more than just, well, that's how I feel.
Yeah, right.
You want them to be able to say, well, I believe this because the Bible says blah, 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 and that makes this an accurate opinion to have. So I know things like alcohol, that always goes a million different directions in the Christian world. And so I would hope everyone that has an opinion on what that is can say, well, because the Bible says this, this, and this, this is why I have my opinion on that topic.
Right.
And it goes for all those kinds of things. So I know at Whitewater we say where the Bible speaks, we speak. Where the Bible is silent, it's up for opinion, basically.
Yeah.
And so helping your kids navigate that world, especially in the teenage years, is so important.
Yeah.
And pushing and saying and making it an okay space for them to disagree with you and saying, okay, well, why do you believe that? Well, this is why I believe that. Let's look at what the Bible and helping them navigate just that critical thinking mindset can go so far in life because so many people don't know how to do that anymore.
Yeah, and let's go Church 101 culture for a second. Like culture building. Tizovich used this on me the other day, which was the national treasure lenses. Anytime he's used something, I feel like he's used it on everybody. So we'll see. But it's just his illustration right now. He'll use another one next week. But like the glasses in National Treasure, where you couldn't really see. Like you couldn't see what was written until you had like all the lenses in the right place. Like you flipped the lenses and whatever. I think that it's so important for you to pick the lenses. Mm-hmm. I think it's important for you to sit down, and so much of competence with your kid is like, let's sit down and discuss like what our lenses of truth are. Right. Like let's see how we filter our information. And even just doing that, it streamlines a bunch of things to just kind of narrow in to be like, okay, I get what you're saying.
And I mean, we're talking, obviously critical thinking is more applicable in the teenage years, but you can lay the groundwork with your younger kids too.
Yeah.
And part of what we're working with all of our kids, which is 7 and under, is using our words. So even our almost 2-year-old, when she starts screaming or whatever, like in unintelligible verbiage going on, we say use your words.
Yeah.
And we say that all the time. The kids are probably going to get, if they're not already sick of that, they're probably sick of it now.
And when you grunt at them, they'll probably be like, use your words, Mommy.
They have said that to us before. So they're listening when they use your words back on you.
They definitely know what you said.
I mean, even our oldest, when he has a meltdown or things like that, we say, well, instead of throwing a fit, you should have used your words and said X, Y, Z, because we cannot interpret crying and meltdowns, and nothing happens when you do that. And so you have to be able to articulate yourself and say why you think something should be the way it is. And we ask them, like, why do you think certain ways? I saw a video of a mom that said when her kid when she tells her kid no and the kid doesn't like it, she gives them the opportunity to explain your point. And if they justify why they think it should be contrary, and this is even with elementary age kids, then it might sway her mind. And we know that that's a biblical thing. Like God tells us to, the persistent widow, like intercede to him and ask. And sometimes it changes his mind, as much as you can contemplate that outside of a God that knows all things through all time. Like that's where I always get a little tricked up on that. But still, like God wants us to ask and explain why we want something, and he will give us the good things that he know will be good in the long run. And it's the same thing with parents, but giving your kids the opportunity to explain why they think something should be different than what you think, or from a young age, helps with that whole sense of competency.
Yeah, and then lastly, I think it helps. I think that helps to also develop and speak truth within relationships, which is encouraged now to develop connections and healthy connections. I mean, there's like so many stories of like students right now who are connecting weirdly on the internet. So I would be wary of that as a parent, of like where their connections are happening, and I'd probably ask them some pretty critical questions about who they're connecting with as well.
And it might be time to establish new boundaries for online, because that's where everybody is there.
Everyone
good
is there now,
and bad. Everybody is on the internet now. which can lead to some pretty dark spots. So, like, we don't have electronics in our bedrooms. Like, that's just one of our rules.
But within video games, within TikTok, within Instagram, that's good and bad everywhere.
Yeah, I was
And it's just
recently
being really
convicted. I was like,
cautious.
I probably need to be more aware of what my son is doing on Roblox. Like,
Yeah, right.
he loves that. And I kind of knew there was a chat feature there, but I didn't realize how much culture was on Roblox and he had it before he came to our house. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to fight on something you used to have, and you've already
Right.
lost
It
all
makes
this
it
other
hard.
stuff, all that kind of thing. But I was like, I probably need to investigate Roblox a little bit more and set more boundaries on that.
Yeah, I just think within this, it's like I think it's using that critical thinking to also be like, okay, in this new world, where are we going for connectivity? Where are we going to make connections? And making sure that those are, healthy connections. Because obviously,
Right.
I will be the first proponent ever. I mean, youth group is built on
Right.
providing an opportunity for connection.
And with that,
So
the thing that I feel like, I know my kids have mourned a little bit. They didn't, like, we only had 2 months with them in a quote unquote normal world before COVID hit. But as a parent and just the future of my kid and how much I know church helps kids, there is mourning in the fact that they don't have Harbortown right now. They don't have the children's ministry. And I feel that all the way up through all of our family ministry. I feel that for our parents, and it's why I always fought for families to put their kids in children's ministry, youth ministry, whatever you call it, because the value of kids having relationship with adults that I can trust
right.
is so crucial for raising kids. Like,
Oh yeah.
I tell people all the time, the value of a good family, children's, youth ministry at a church is not what your kid is learning.
Right.
Looking back, I went to church 3 times. Like, I was probably in church 5 hours a week growing up. I can tell you very little that I specifically learned or did outside of like a youth group trip from my childhood. Like, very little. I remember the people. It is so crucial, the relationships, and that there are other adults speaking the same truth you are speaking to your kid, so that when they don't want to interact with you, when they get to that stage, they're going to these other adults that you can trust are going to say the same thing you would say to them. And so if you are able to figure out how to get those adult voices back into your kid's life and help them interact, like, take that opportunity. More than, like, yes, you want your kid to have friends, but I want them to have respectable adults in their life that I know they can trust and lean on when they don't want to talk to me.
Yeah.
That is such a huge value point to me on what family ministry brings to my kids' lives.
Yeah, and I would end it on this, which is usually we're asking for like funny stories or whatever, but like if you don't know where to go and if you don't know where the connectivity needs to happen, this is fantastic for both student ministry, kids ministry, for equipping and development, leader something, whatever your super long title is. Super important person, Shannan.
Sure.
Is that in your title?
No.
That's good for the whole family.
Yeah.
I mean, it is good for even as you as a parent, if you don't know where to connect. We have so many places for you to connect at Whitewater.
Serving together. Like, my family did that growing up. That's memorable moments for me, is
awesome.
serving together.
And we have a ton of awesome families who serve together somewhere. So if you need anything from us, if you need, hey, I want to know where I can get my kid connected. I want to know where I can get my student connected. I want to know where I can get connected. Just drop your name and like an email or something. Maybe not contact info, but maybe just drop a comment in our comments for the show, and we would love to talk to you about that. Get back to you, give you some next steps that maybe you or your family needs.
Yep.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
All right, bye.